What's going on, guys? Matt Manduke here, and this is my flight off of I-20 in Alabama. There is a rest stop at mile marker 39, and that is a eastbound rest stop. And as you can see, that everything is nice and green, and this is actually a really nice rest stop for what some rest stops really are, just a parking lot. This one actually had, a cutout of trees and a little bit of park space. It did say no pets, but I think that's because they didn't want dog shit all over the place, because they probably hardly maintain the rest stops. And from what I've seen, I mean, they change trash cans in some states, but that's about it. But I'm also still playing with the drone, because I'm like, ooh, I have a zoom, and now I can see that there's water there, and like, you can see the film quality in the detail of the trees, which is just phenomenal compared to what the Spark was. But the Spark was just, so I could learn how to fly. But I am still playing with it, and I like the way the clouds look, and I like the way the ground looks, and I'm thinking I'm going to get all the way over to that lake to see what it looks like over there. And I don't actually get all that far. At some point, it tells me that its maximum reach is 1,600 feet, which I could get that far with the Spark, so I don't see why I can't go further with this drone, because it's supposed to have a 5-mile range. And if it has a 5-mile range, well, 1,600 feet isn't 5 miles, and so I'm thinking that there is a problem there, and maybe I just need to like mess with the settings and figure out what that is. But yes, and then since I get to the maximum, I decide to spin around and see what else I can see. And yes, the camera is a little weird because of the sun, so of course I tilted it a little bit so you can see the differences in the trees there, and it's just a miraculous forest for what it is. It is beautiful. And then I'm like, ooh, is that where I'm at, or is that the other side? Well, it turns out it's where I'm at, so I realized that as I'm coming over. So I move over a little bit, and in a minute you're going to see both me and my truck, even though I'm not in my truck and I'm standing away from the truck. The way that it worked out, you can actually see my truck through the trees. And so my truck is that one, that blue one, and that's me, that little black dot on the ground. And then there's my truck. Well, I mean, there's another blue one next to it, but it's the one that's closer to us. And then I'm like, well, is there another rest stop across the way? Can I check that out? And it turns out there was one that was further up the road, but I didn't know that at the time, and I didn't realize that until I was back on the road, and I didn't fly around for the entirety. As you already know, that this video is not 30 minutes long, and this drone can fly for 30 minutes. I still only used 1 bar of battery. But I keep it full charged, and I'm sure I'll find something that is much more interesting to look at. But I still like the way this looks, and I like the way the forest looks, and I'm just kind of getting into the drone, and so I'm like, well, let me see how far away from traffic I am based on what it is. And yeah, it's only a 2x zoom, but that makes a bit of a difference when it comes down to getting close to things. And no, I'm not getting overly close to things, not yet, but I'm still getting familiar with the drone because it's much more capable than my last one. So then I'm like, ooh, there is some water that I can get to, and I wouldn't have known that water was even there, and if I didn't fly. So I'm able to check it out. You can see there's power lines that go over it, and I'm like, ooh, is that a fishing boat? That's what that looks like. That's a fishing boat. And I'm like, do I want to get closer to them in Alabama? No, probably not. I probably don't want to get closer to them in Alabama, because they might be like, ooh, it's a drone, let me shoot it out of the sky. And I'm kind of thinking about that while I'm flying, but I'm not terribly worried about it, because they'd have to have some hella good aim. And at this point, I'm like 250 feet in the air, and it's actually very difficult to see it. And it's not very loud either, but it does put off a hell of a lot of air. And I noticed that when I was taking it off, because I flew pretty much straight up from where I was. And at this point, I'm like, well, I guess there isn't too much else to see here, so let me start finding my way back, and maybe I can show this rest stop for what it is, because it's much more involved than many other rest stops. And the fact that they didn't cut many trees, just for the truck parking, and I'm sure for the car parking, but they actually give you a little bit of space to play in, and that's cool because a rest stop's supposed to give you something kind of to do, because what's the sense of stopping your car if there's nothing but a parking lot? Now, in the case of me, I'm legally required to take a 30-minute break, so and I think I made it like 45 minutes because I flew, but even then, I still want to get out and do something, and in the case of me, I get out and fly. And because of the time of the day, the shadowing and everything is cool, and I think of my drone kind of as a pet, even though it said no pets, and I noticed that after thinking that, but I think of it as a pet. Like, I got to take it out and fly it sometimes because, well, it's like walking a dog, you know. Except for in this case, flying the drone to show you guys what you can see, and I'm also flying the drone to see what I can see if there's anything really cool in the area. So now I'm doing the landing thing, and I'm trying to like zoom in on me, and I'm realizing that there's a bunch of trees that I have to come down in between. So I'm also looking up and trying to figure out where the drone is, and it's difficult because I can't really see it, and that's why I'm all spinning around and doing stuff, because I'm like, where is it? And I'm trying to line it up with where I'm standing, and I'm just a dot there. And right now I'm zoomed in, so that dot is the top of my bald head. And so I'm still coming down, and I'm thinking, well, there's a nice little gazebo over in front of me, and maybe I'll be able to show that, but there's somebody over there, and people get really paranoid about drones. And the other thing that I really didn't mention about the drone, actually, in the first flight video, was that it doesn't land the same way. Like, yes, I can hit a return to home, and it will. Yeah, and there you can see the building and the walking path and how it's all well kept and in good working order. Everything's like actually really pretty there. I'm not going to say everything in Alabama is really pretty, because it's not necessarily, but everything there is actually pretty nice. And I don't know what that guy's doing. I guess he's just kind of scouting it out, but I know what that guy's doing. He's flying the drone. And look at my pretty nice new shoes. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. I wouldn't do this without you. I'll see all my friends later.